What's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I couldn't find my water. Anyway, like the video as the intro plays because we got a lot to get into. It just seems to keep just popping off. Do I want to do that one? No, I think I'll do this one.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. I want to make it make
Make it make sense. That's all. 1 and 1 got to equal 2.
Make it make sense, boo.
Big moves. Surfer. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you see. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you see. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dreams. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense.
Trying to run, she can't run. Now who can't run? Now who can't run? Who can't run? Yeah.
God's Butterfly, I don't have a favorite introduction because I usually find the stuff and the stuff that I think is funny. So I'm kind of goofy in real life. So, but anyway, okay. I told you guys I would keep you posted when anything new popped off about TD Jakes. Prophet Manasseh has come out and said a couple things. Reid has come out and said a couple things, and they have both alleged that there are multiple people who want in on this lawsuit. If you don't know, Prophet Manasseh said that he will be filing a lawsuit. I can't quite wrap my head around what the lawsuit against TD Jakes will really be about, other than probably like some type of emotional distress. That's pretty much all I could come up with, because everybody who's made allegations has kind of said that, you know, it was after they were an adult. Maybe it started early. They've alleged that it started early, but let's get into this. If you don't know who Prophet Manasseh is, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of what he had to say initially as it relates to grooming in the church. We're going to end this video with the stuff on Eddie Long. And I didn't know that Eddie Long's accuser has written a book, so I'm going to try to get that book tonight. But I did get which was extremely hard to get for some reason, get the complaints. And we're going to go over one of those. And guys, it's deep. It's deep, and you'll see. But this is what Manasseh had to say.
That it has on people psychologically, emotionally. And a lot of times when you're in it, you're not aware of it until you step back and you realize that. And that's been happening with a lot of other victims that have been contacting me. Just recently today, I've heard from 2 other victims that, so it's just a lot to talk about, that experienced the same thing that I experienced. They were younger. And it's very hard to talk about these things because most of the time people get overshadowed with the gift of that particular person. You know, oh, they're so gifted. They're a great singer. They're a great preacher. Oh, look what they did for the community. But gifts and callings come without repentance.
Megan said Prophet is a fraud. Now we'll get into some allegations about him after we let him kind of finish saying what he has to say about grooming in the church and acknowledging that victims are now reaching out to him. And these are alleged victims of TD Jakes. So just FYI, that's who he's referring to.
And 2 of the offenders were not only a victim of grooming, as what I described in some of my previous videos, but of SA, sexual assault, from the same predator that groomed me and that violated me as a man. They're going to be pressing charges. And as much as this is an uncomfortable conversation to have, especially with people who don't know what it feels like. So it's kind of hard to be in someone's shoes. And other people say, well, why now? Why now? Because they don't understand the emotional, the psychological effects that it has on someone. I know two of the victims which shared their.
I thought I pronounced it right. Manasseh. I thought it was Manasseh. Y'all know it took me a long time to get it. Let me know in the comments.
Story and went through very similar things that I went through with the same predator are ready to press charges, and they said that they will press charges. This is ministry. And this is what it means to bring healing to the brokenhearted. Because stuff that people held in.
So you heard him. He said there were two more victims. Just very briefly, he talked a little bit about healing.
And one of the key things with predators are that they're narcissists. They always make everything about themselves. They will make a performance. They'll make it seem like it's always about them. They'll make it seem everything will always come and be about them. It's very difficult to talk about because especially around the holiday season, narcissists hate that because it's a time that the spotlight's not on them. And so they want everything to be about them. And so when I see the response of certain people or the response that people are making, or even the response of TD, you see the narcissistic behavior. And people who do not know him, they'll go over their head. But people who are sensitive to the spirit, or people that have studied psychology or psychotherapy, you see it right away. I believe that God is exposing because it is not about bringing any person down. It is about bringing repentance. If David never got exposed, we would not have Psalms 51. And that's the beauty of Psalms 51. It comes out of David's pain and out of his repentance. And you cannot have repentance until you have confession. So it's not just, if I did this, I can just repent and God will forgive me. No, we have to confess and then we repent. And repentance is not just all I have to do is say.
Okay, so that gives you kind of a little bit of insight into what his feelings are. And I always try to give you guys both sides of the coin. So there was a subscriber who felt like I wasn't giving the full picture on the prophet. Technically, I didn't know until you told me. So there was an issue where he had some issues with robocalls. So I'll show you this. I wasn't even going to mention it, but Larry Reid mentioned it. And I was like, okay, so maybe more people know about this than I knew. I told you guys I'm Catholic, so certain things I'm just not necessarily privy to. But one of the allegations being made is Prophet Manasseh was not at a good space with his father, and he was going through issues with being called out for these robocalls and having to settle with the government for these robocalls. And they said that he basically was using his relationship with TD Jakes as a smokescreen. Now, this is coming from people from the TD Jakes camp. I don't know what's true. Do I believe Prophet when he said that he was groomed? Yes, I do. But I always have to give you guys both sides of the spectrum. So this is what was said.
Stop him.
Hello?
Robocalls.
My dearest friend, this is Prophet Manasseh.
Many of them posted online.
Email me immediately.
Real nauseating, something you don't want to hear.
Typically promising a financial blessing.
And it also had a prosperity blessing.
Larry Simpson says he never asked the self-proclaimed prophet, and I hear it right now, Yaquim Manasseh Jordan, for any prayers.
It really got old quick.
But Larry did ask that his cell phone number be taken off the prophet's list.
The message was, don't call me anymore.
No, I'm not a fan of robocalls.
What happened then?
Well, then the calls doubled and sometimes tripled. I probably got close to 300 calls in a year's time.
I found 15 federal lawsuits filed against Jordan or Manasseh Jordan Ministry since 2013. A third of them right here in Florida.
It's a pre-recorded message to start with, so that violates the law automatically.
The unsolicited robodialing of cell phones violates federal law.
Now, this wasn't... When this was sent to me, I was kind of like, you know, when I think of like criminal investigations, I think about like tax evasions and stuff like that. So to me, robocalling from a televangelist, I told you guys my grandmother used to watch the televangelist religiously, and I'm not sure if she ever sent them like tithes and stuff, but you know, I'm a person with however you choose to worship is however you choose to worship. I don't typically judge. So a robocall scandal is not technically much of a scandal, but the other side wanted me to give you guys the full picture. So that's what I did. Anyway, so moving on. Larry Reid came out and I took notes yesterday. He had done a couple of updates, but I just didn't update you guys. But this one was a little bit this was a little bit of a shocker. He says that a couple of the accusers have now come to him, and this is not the first time that people who have had accusations about TD Jakes have come to him. I believe he said that he used to be one of the people who went to, you know, the church or was in the orbit of TD Jakes. And I think he said, you know, I think the person who exposed John Gray had also went to him. And this one particular person who he called DY. Let's get into DY. DY is accusing TD Jakes of predatory grooming. And he knows that it's not criminal, but it will be a civil matter. And that this person... I believe he said that this person would want to get in on the lawsuit with Prophet Manasseh. I was like, wow. He said that it started at the age of 15, but it did not get physical until 19. And it lasted for 17 years, which he didn't give an age, but by my account, that would make him 32. He also says that there have been multiple people that come to him, and then he tells TD Jakes' team to reach out to them. I was a little bit confused on that. I mean, I would assume that the accuser would have a direct link to TD Jakes and could get a hold of him if they wanted to. I wasn't quite sure about that. Remember, guys, I don't actually know Larry Reid. I will link Larry Reid's video in the description of this video if you want to check that out. He said that he jumped to another accuser who said that TD Jakes was greedy, unkind, and a self-absorbed predator. Then he jumped back to, I guess, DY. That's what he was calling him. DY had reached out to him in 2019 and then reached out again to him 2 days ago after, I guess, all of the Prophet Manasseh stuff came out. And from what it sounded like, it almost sounded like this DY person was jealous because they felt like they were giving TD Jakes their best years. And come to find out that there was more than one person. You guys know that Larry Reid broke the story a few weeks ago, specifically about Manasseh, and said that he was able to get screenshots of some of the messages that TD Jakes had sent. I showed you guys. This was one of the messages. It was sent at 2:33 in the morning saying, "Thinking of you," and TD Jakes was flexed. For me personally, I do consider this proof of something because, you know, maybe I might reach out to a friend and say, "Thinking of you," if they're going through a hard time or if they've experienced a death, you know, or you're trying to like breathe life into somebody. I'm a big person who believes in breathing life into somebody because, you know, people don't always know how you feel, that you care, that you will be there. So I can understand that, but the timing, you know, maybe I don't think I've ever sent anybody anything at 2:30 unless it was like a drunk text. So, you know, to be 2:30 in the morning saying thinking of you and sending the picture to me was strange. We went over that on the original video. And then Larry Reid also pointed out that he was wearing the same color shirt that Eddie Long was wearing when he was sending pictures to those young men who we're going to review the lawsuit at the end of this video. So, you know, I don't know. What was going on with Eddie Long's hair? What would that, is that like a Jerry curl, or is that like a comb through texturizer with maybe some spritz in it? I'm always really curious how people do their hair. I mean, I have hair. I just choose to keep it really low. But that's an interesting look. Either way it goes, these are the things that he had already told us. And those were pretty damning. But back to the person who said that they had the 17-year relationship. They felt like their best years kind of went to somebody who actually was trying to wedge a like hole in between other people that this person was trying to get to know. Like, here I am giving you my best years, but you are giving yourself to somebody else. Now, let's not forget that if these allegations are true, you're saying this about a man that you know is married. So, you know, Black Sugar, thank you so much for joining the membership. I appreciate you. And Measurement says it's Michelle's loud story and all that is about to bring this house down. Brandon is appealing. Who is Brandon? And Michelle Loud is the young lady who has accused T.D. Jake's daughter of basically stealing her child. She's done some interviews. People have requested that I interview her. I would need more information before I did that, but I am aware of Michelle Loud. And if her story is true, it's really heartbreaking to think that she has been separated from her child. Thank you for the super chat. And Whitney B, hey, Mims, glad I caught it live. Hey, welcome. Thank you for the super chat. And we got over 2,000 in the chat, guys. So definitely hit that, not wet and wavy. Definitely hit that like button. Stealing. Yeah, it's alleged that the daughter stole the child. So Larry said that he suggested that Larry's team called the accuser by 12 p.m. last night. And I thought that was still a little bit kind of like strange, to be honest with you. Larry says that he loves the church, but I don't think this is necessarily about the church as much as it is about the person. And, you know, I will say this, T.D. Jakes is innocent until proven guilty. I don't quite know. There's some things that I'm confused about. I don't know Larry, Reid, so I can't just like pick up the phone and call him and see if he can kind of like fill in the blanks as to why he would be calling T.D. Jake's team for the accuser. But I'm interested to know the reasoning behind that. He said that there were so many similarities between the 17-year relationship guy and Prophet Manasseh's story. And if T.D. Jakes knows what's good for him, then he will reach out and try to make things right. But as you heard, Prophet Manasseh says he's going through with his lawsuit either way. So it's a lot. It's a whole lot. And if you guys are asking why I seem a little bit more serious, it's because right before this, I was actually reading the lawsuit from Eddie Long's accusers. Now, Eddie Long settled. We all know Eddie Long is no longer with us. He passed away several years ago, but even after his scandal, the church stayed with him. He had kind of built that church up to mega church status. Surprisingly, after Eddie Long passed away, they went ahead and pulled in Jamal Bryant.
But I got to tell you, these hoes ain't loyal.
who preaches about these hoes not being loyal on the pulpit. Again, Jamal Bryant.
But I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal.
Interesting. Interesting. So I want you guys to see this because I got a lot of questions when I started covering this. Like, what would predatory behavior be, and what would be church grooming? And so when I was deep diving church grooming, Eddie Long came up. So let me show you guys this. This is an interview that two of the accusers did. We're also going to go over the lawsuit. Hey, if you guys are just coming in, definitely hit that like button. The debauchery, ridiculous. Right. We got like 2,300 in the chat.
He just hits you with the most emotional question. Now, when he takes you to that emotional question, I'm taking you back to a memory. It's almost like hypnotism. Relax, lay down, talk about how you feel. And then you start vividly thinking about it, and you start crying. And that's when I talk to you. I know what you're feeling. I know what it's like. And I'm sorry, and I'm gonna step in the place of your father. I'm not gonna let you go. Wow, for real? You gonna do all that? That's what's up. You're my dad. So while everybody sees a well-dressed grown man, they don't know you treat me like a, and I grow up with that mentality, regardless of what you think my age is, or regardless of whether you think it's right. I'm 7 years old in my own eyes.
At the moment.
Okay. So I want you guys to see this. Okay. It says, each alleged that once they reach the age of consent, Long coerced them into sexual relationships. That's interesting, right? Like, so you knew what you were doing. Let me see. Both men said they were 17 when the advances began. By then, he had taken them on several trips to Kenya, Honduras, and the Bahamas, among other exotic locales, introducing them to world-famous celebrities and lavishing them with new cars and their own apartments. Their relationships with Long affected each man differently, but profoundly. He was, Paris, the one who was just speaking, was battling or, going with the thought of maybe I should take my own life. I'd love to take pills and never wake up, he said. Long never addressed the scandal directly, but in a sermon early this year, he too had briefly entertained taking his own life. I had a moment. I wanted to take my own life and was ready, he told New Birth congregation, referring to a time when he said he felt condemned for our four corners of the earth. He had these people, he had these little boys calling him daddy. And the first thing I thought about was Diddy. Y'all know how Diddy was asking Cassie, what do you call your grandpa? And Cassie said, I call my grandpa Pop Pop. And he said, from now on, you're supposed to call me Pop Pop. That's what it reminded me of. But let's get into a little bit more of what he said. Hopefully we can kind of clear up the confusion, because some people don't believe that church grooming exists, but it definitely does. And these people would be proof positive.
As a 14-year-old, you're thinking like you're the luckiest kid in the world. It's like, nothing can touch you. Like, you always know somebody got your back, And for me, it was more of a spiritual connection with them. It was all about God. The day that I met him, it was just like a God moment. It was the most emotional point in my life that I've ever been. Like actually, the day that I met him, he actually had a sermon about forgiving your father, about all the stuff that he did in the past. I thought, this is just a God connection. Like, this is my purpose to be a part of this church. I changed my whole life because of what he told me. I used to play basketball. I used to be
in Atlanta. Read the signs. Judge me again. Judge me again, and then judge me again. And still ask me, could you do half the stuff?
The young man that was just speaking is actually the young man that wrote the book. I told you guys I'm going to see if I can get the book tonight. I'll start reading it. If there's stuff that I think we need to discuss, then I will pull that into a book club reading. But I'll try to get his book tonight. It just came out a couple months ago.
We walked through.
How did he rope you into that?
How did he rope you into it? Explain, like, what do you mean?
How did he convince you the very first time to do what?
Just to be his son, or you mean, or what? What do you?
No, the physical stuff. How did he transition?
Well, started off, it's just
that's the stuff he
did. It's
you start touching him.
He slowly gain your trust. That's it. I mean, you think a man of that stature would not ever do anything like that, and that's what everyone thinks. I mean, any priest, any bishop, any pastor, anyone, you're going to whoever goes to that congregation, whoever listens to that man speak is going to automatically give that man the utmost respect. And that's what we did. I mean, we were just regular members of the church. We wasn't anything more than kids who went to the church to learn about God. I mean, but the thing is, what trapped us was, we were just addicted to the lifestyle. We was addicted to the love that we got, because I didn't have a dad my whole life. I was fatherless, and to have a man love me just for who I was, I ain't had to change myself. I just had to be me. I just had to love him back, because he didn't have a lot of love. That's what he would show you. Like, he doesn't have any love out of all his congregation. He just want you to love him.
Yeah.
Predatory things. You have all these people admiring you, and you're telling kids, I don't feel love except from you. The only time I feel love is from you. They are really breaking down what it means to be a predator in the church, and have people, kind of in some ways put you on a pedestal, so you would never think that this person would be coercing me into something else. Wait till we get into the lawsuit.
And you feel like you have since he's that type of power, you have to do that because it's the right thing to do, because God wants you to do it.
I'm about to tell a secret.
And to become anybody in power, first you have to learn how to serve. And that's what he taught us. Like, you serve, you do what we say. You serve. I want to become a preacher. I want to become this man. I want to have the influence of this man.
I think what she's asking is how it led from the son stuff to going past that. So that's kind of what I was trying to show y'all just now. It goes from me sitting over here to me moving closer. Good job, son.
Just a little, anything.
Good job, son. It's a mental game. And at that point, he was able to outthink us because he got 3 times our lifespan. For some odd reason, people think we had sex. Let me clarify that one, point blank, period. No one ever said we had sex. I've seen articles of we did not have sex, point blank, period. We simply said there were things that were inappropriate.
I feel like this young man, when he was given this interview, I think there were certain things he didn't want to say, because I have now seen the lawsuit. So let's get into the lawsuit. I'll make it bigger so you guys can see. I don't know why these are so hard. You guys know I can get a lawsuit, but these were very difficult to get. It says factual allegations. Defendant Long is the bishop, senior pastor, and chief executive officer of Defendant New Missionary Baptist Church. New Birth has grown to over 25,000 members since Defendant Long first served as pastor in 1987. Defendant's New Birth website proclaims, as a man of vision, Bishop Long is revered locally, nationally, and internationally as a dynamic man of leadership, integrity, and compassion. In addition to acting as the bishop, head pastor, and chief executive officer of Defendant New Birth, Defendant Long has also had several offshoot ministries, including Defendant Longfellow's Youth Academy. Longfellow's Youth Academy is a tuition-based program for young men aged 13 through 18, which purports to train young men to love, live, and lead as they proceed on their masculine journey. The Longfellows program reputedly seeks to create committed men of God and learning life lessons and key leadership principles. One thing that I keep getting in my inbox about Eddie Long specifically is that he preached a sermon against homosexuality. So when anything homosexual came up about him, that's why it was such a big deal. Not just because he was part of the church, but because of his very staunch beliefs on homosexuality. Defendant Long personally participates in the Longfellows program as a pastor, counselor, mentor, and confidant to the young men enrolled. At all times, material here too, blah, 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 blah. Defendant Long has utilized his spiritual authority as bishop and leader of defendant's ministry to coerce certain young male members and employees of defendant New Birth and pupils of defendant Longfellows into engaging into sexual acts and relationships for his own personal sexual gratification. Defendant Long has a pattern and practice of singling out a select group of young male church members and using his authority as bishop over them to ultimately bring them to a point of engaging in a sexual relationship. So we just heard the young man say that it never got sexual, but that's not what his lawsuit. So for me, when I see that, to me, my heart goes out to him even more, because even at a moment where he is kind of like spilling his guts to the news to get some type of attention for what he has been through, he's not exactly comfortable going there. You know what I mean? And that, to me, makes him, it's definitely because he was a victim of this. You know what I mean? It says, although the majority of defendants' congregation is likely unaware of the aforesaid practices, many of defendant Long's victims are known throughout the church as the spiritual sons of defendant Long. Remember, he had them calling him daddy. Defendant Long typically engages in a private spiritual ceremony described as a covenant between himself and each young spiritual son. The covenant ceremony includes an exchange of vows and assurances by defendant Long that he will forever protect the young man from harm by anybody. We got some super chats. Here we go. Love your channel. Don't shade his hair. LOL. I didn't think I was shading it. I just didn't quite get it. I mean, I think you could get an edge up if you have a Jerry curl, right? You could get like an edge up, you know. It looks okay. I'll be nice. Thank you, Mitch. I know people with Jerry curl who it just looks a little bit more like kept up. Thank you for the super chat though. Negla, thanks for the super chat. I know this is a serious topic, but I will pay you to stop deep diving, digging deep, and going hard. Not you will pay me to stop deep diving. Evelyn, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you. Ayana G, thanks for the super sticker. Black Astrology Media. We were going to his church every Sunday when we moved to Atlanta. We believed Eddie until he started paying them off. Oh, wow. We still haven't done an open panel on this topic. So Black Astrology, whenever I do the open panel, please come up and kind of share your stories as a congregation member. Thank you for the super chat. A soul glow. I think it was a toupee. Yeah, it was kind of like a spiritual marriage. I see. The covenant ceremony includes an exchange of vows and assurances by defendant Long that he will forever protect the young man from harm by anyone. Defendant Long uses various rituals in the ceremony, including candles, exchange of jewelry, and discussion of biblical verses that reinforce the spiritual and godlike connection between himself and the young man. During services to the congregation at large, defendant Long uses pastoral sessions to discuss biblical verses that indicate that the spiritual son should follow his master. Meanwhile, the congregation at large is mostly unaware of the covenant ceremony that has already taken place privately between defendant Long and his sons. This sounds like some Illuminati type stuff. Like kind of like hiding in plain sight. Defendant Long uses monetary funds from the accounts of defendant New Birth and defendant Longfellows, among other corporate and nonprofit corporate accounts, to entice the spiritual sons with cars, jewelry, and electronics. So basically,
this ain't stealing.
Alleging that he uses the church money to pay off the spiritual sons.
This ain't stealing.
To me. I mean, I don't know what else. When you're doing these covenants and stuff like that and hiding in plain sight, I used Illuminati because I don't know another. If you have a better example, let me know. If you have a better example, let me know. Defendant Long's spiritual sons are taken on a public and private jets to U.S. and international destinations, housed in luxury hotels, and given access to numerous celebrities, including entertainment stars and politicians. Defendant Long's spiritual sons are placed on the payroll of Defendant New Birth and become paid employees of Defendant New Birth. Typically, when the young males, confused by their sexual contact with Defendant Long, find girlfriends or engage in sexual contact with females pursuant their own personal desires, Defendant Long initially attempts to block those relationships by increased contact and spiritual talk as to the covenant between the spiritual son and himself. So that's similar to what, somebody said cult. Okay. So cult would be a better word than the Illuminati stuff. So that sounds very similar to what Larry Reid told him about that guy DY who was in the 17-year relationship, that he would feel obligated to be there for him and pass up on other relationships. So it sounds like a pattern of grooming. That's why I thought we should review this case. Defendant Long initially attempts to block those relationships by increased contact and spiritual talk as to the covenant between the spiritual son and himself. Manasseh had said that there would be talks that the groomer would have, like, what are your dark desires, and let me know and tell me specifically those things that you feel challenge your relationship with God and things like that. So it sounds like it's a typical tactic of a groomer. Plaintiff Jamal Muhammad Michael Paris is one of the young male spiritual sons described. Jamal Paris was born in 1987. He currently resides in Colorado. Him and his mother joined the church in 2001 when Jamal was 14 years old. Within 2 weeks of joining the church, Defendant Long met Plaintiff Paris, gave Plaintiff Paris his personal cell number, and told Paris to call him. So at 14, Plaintiff Paris' father had not been a positive figure in his life. Defendant Long spoke with Plaintiff Paris about his father and told him he would protect him and never let another man hurt him like his father did. Defendant Long obtained employment for Plaintiff Paris at New Birth Missionary Church summer camp as a counselor. Defendant Paris attended church regularly and joined the New Missionary Church youth choir. On many Sundays after church, Plaintiff Paris would, at the request of Defendant Long, go to Defendant Long's office after church and speak with Defendant Long. The private office of Defendant Long at Defendant New Birth Missionary Baptist Church is complete with office, living room, bedroom, and kitchen for the comfort and privacy of the bishop. Why would he need a kitchen, a living room, and a bedroom? During 2004-2005 school year, Defendant Long started to spend more one-on-one time with Paris. Defendant Long initially requested Paris to stay after church in the private office after everyone left. During 2004-2005, Defendant Long would also take Paris alone to the guest house on Snapfinger Road. Peaches and Cream, you're crazy. I just saw your super chat. Tarisha Toddy, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you. Black JFK, I caught alive. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the super chat. I saw this. Do you want to get swallowed up? Thank you for the super chat, Peaches and Cream. During 2005, Defendant Long would also take Plaintiff Paris alone to the guest house on Snapfinger Road. Defendant Long would encourage Jamal Paris to call him daddy. Initially, Defendant Long engaged in sexual touching during their encounters and then escalated the activity to oral and other acts of gratification. Defendant Long would discuss the Holy Scripture to justify and support the activity. Like, really just messing with this kid's head, or all of these kids' head. At some point, Plaintiff Paris became an employee of Defendant New Birth Missionary Baptist Church as Defendant Long's personal assistant at the request of Defendant Long. Defendant Long gave money, gifts, and trips to Paris. Paris would travel with Bishop Long in private airplanes owned by the New Birth Baptist Church. Also, y'all were balling like that. Y'all had him in private jets. I know they had 25,000 members. Long accompanied Plaintiff Paris to Dallas, Houston, New York, Los Angeles, Orlando, Charlotte, Miami, San Francisco, New Jersey, Honduras, Nassau, Charleston, Trinidad, Chicago, and Arkansas. On these trips and in private meetings at the bishop's private office located inside New Missionary Baptist Church and the Snapfinger Row Guest House, Bishop Eddie Long engaged in oral, massages, and I'm leaving some words out, guys, requested plaintiff Paris to be disrobed in his presence, and engaged in other activity with plaintiff Paris. By 2009, Paris had a girlfriend and started to distance himself from Long. By the end of 2009, Paris left the church disillusioned, confused, angry about his relationship with defendant Long. On or about 2010, plaintiff Paris reached out to other spiritual sons of defendant Long, believing they had submitted to Bishop Long's religious rituals and sexual abuse. Employees and agents of defendant New Birth, including, and they were named, but this was redacted, often accompanied defendant Long and plaintiff Paris on the overnight trips and knew that defendant Long was sharing a bedroom with Paris. So he's alleging that the church people saw it and covered it up. Wow. Wow. There's all kinds of like photos of him in his offices and stuff with these kids. Or they weren't kids technically by the time, you know what I mean. There's nothing like using a position like in the church to do something foul like this. At all times relevant and pertinent to the claims alleged, defendant Long was in a confidential relationship with the plaintiff. Defendant Long was in a confidential relationship and was thereby situated to exercise a controlling influence over the will, conduct, and interest of the plaintiff. He convinced plaintiff Paris that engaging in a sexual relationship was a healthy component of his spiritual life. Various individuals working for defendant Long at the Longfellows Academy, including, and he named them, knew of defendant Long's sexually inappropriate conduct and did nothing to warn or protect the plaintiff. So that's why he was not only able to sue Eddie Long directly, but he was able to sue the church, the youth church. Let's see. I think these young men can now actually talk about what went on. I think it was, they said it was like a 10-year. It was like a 10-year NDA. Like after you settle, like you can't talk about it for like 10 years. So I think that's why one of the accusers wrote the book. But it's one thing to hear it, and it's another thing to hear it from their mouths.
Sexual. What Spencer LeGrand speaks about is his personal experience. What Jamal Paris speaks about is mine. And everybody else, they do their own thing. But when you look at a person and you confide in them and you trust them and you love them and you give them 10 years of your life and you separate your family and the woman you loved and your home and your dogs and your security system and your education, when you separate that, how are you ever supposed to get that back? And how do you put a price tag? Or how do you put anything on that? I don't trust. Trust is for the weak.
See that right there?
Trust
no one. I don't.
This is what happens as an after effect, right? You put your full trust in somebody and they violate you. That reverberates in your life moving forward. So when people are like, oh, you sued civilly. Cassie, she sued civilly. You really don't know the impact that somebody doing this can have on you. And it's not just the physical. It really can mess with you moving forward. It's like they say when you have, difficulties in childhood, that lasts into adulthood. So if these people are saying they don't trust people, they need to get paid for their pain because that's something they're going to have to get over. Just saying.
My trust in everyone has been messed up. Just people, I just don't trust because of this situation. It showed me how evil people are. It shows you, even though you could have a title of a man of God, that we still fall short.
I'm not speaking against anybody's faith. You do with what you feel. If you want to worship in the church, worship in the church. If you want to worship it, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. But me and for mine, I don't trust y'all. For what? All y'all judged us for telling the truth. This is what parents teach their 2-year-old kids. Tell the truth, don't lie. If something happens, come out, we'll cover you or protect you. We're your family. It takes a village to raise a child, but guess what? Where was our village? So why the hell am I gonna trust y'all for anything? I don't want to hear that crap from none of them. Because guess what? If they've been hearing it for years, why did it take me 1 year after I left before something got done? I don't show any sympathy to anybody going through it now. I would love to. I really would. I feel sorry for what's going on through you, but I feel like at this point, the ship is sinking. We done put up the flare signals. We showed you the lifeboat. We told you everything you need to do. We showed you the signs. This is how you avoid it. And that's why I'm really gonna write a book and I'm gonna tell y'all, this is how y'all avoid it. This is.
I don't agree with him. There's something about him that I feel bad for him. I don't agree with him. He's basically saying that the other victims, now that it's out, if you are presently going through that, it's the same thing where this man coerced you. You can't tell another victim when, you need to snap out of it. But this was a very young dude and he spoke like a young dude. And I think that's what it is. He came across like he was very knowledgeable about a lot of things, but he is still a very young man and a young-minded man. You can't dictate when a victim stops allowing someone to victimize them, So I don't really hold it against him because he is very, very young. Somebody said he's angry. Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
What it looks like. Each gift became above the next. Like I remember the first time I didn't have money to go to New York. Oh, you don't have money for a flight? I'll get you there. Oh, you need money for spent? Send you $20.
You just ran with it because you had so much faith in this church and this man. Like,
no, you know what the most fun part was? Just pulling up in the cars. Like that was just stupid. You talking about 19, 20, 21, and you pull up in a Maybach, a Rolls, a Cadillac XLR.
And all those people saw him going into the hotel room. Where were they?
In the office.
I can say that real quick.
They were in the office doing their jobs at work.
Once you have that much money to pay people and your money's involved in their lifestyle, how they live, you have followers. You have people who's going to support you no matter if you had a videotape showing it. Towards the end, I mean, you just start breaking down every day, wanting to voice out what's going on inside your heart, but you're scared to tell people. But no one really knew until we actually said something. I mean, not in my family. I'm talking about family of mine. The emotion that came out of it after I told them and explained to them.
Somebody said, what about the families? If they're not actually actively saying this is what's going on to me, and you are saying, hey, I'm going to be with the church group, I'm going to be with the pastor, I'm going to be, in the choir, I'm going to be working as a youth counselor for the church. I don't think that the average parent, the parent thinks they're doing the right thing because their kid is heavily involved in the church. It's the adults around who knew that these kids were being taken advantage of and didn't say anything that I would fault. But if, I wouldn't fault a mom who sent her kid who was having some difficulties in school and is sending her kid to church to try to get some, what would be the word? To try to get some structure. I couldn't blame a parent for sending their kid to church. And if the kid didn't tell them that something was going on,
What was horrifying. It was tears, emotion. It was angriness. It was just thinking back, like, what could I have done different to help my little boy? Something so innocent.
What's been the hardest part of all this for you?
The hardest part for me is watching somebody who you love destroy himself. That's been the hardest part because I still, me, I don't have any hate. I don't hate anyone. I don't want to see someone destroy themselves. I don't want to see somebody in this kind of pressure. You put this on yourself, man. Like any man who does that is a crazy man. It's just, I don't want to see anybody go through what you're going through because it's just not right. It's just I still have a heart. I still care for you. But why would you sit here and just?
Let me know if you guys want me to go find his book. You could put in the chat, Replay Gang. Let me know. Put in the comment section. This is the young man who wrote the book. I seen a couple excerpts from the book, and it seemed pretty interesting. And I definitely want to give him a sale and potentially, push his book out there because his story deserves to get told. Also, I found some stuff on Diddy that kind of shows that Diddy was in cahoots with the police department at one point. I'll probably do a video on that within the next couple of days. It was like an old lawsuit, but when I read the complaint in the lawsuit, I was like, dang, was he really in cahoots with the police department? Now this last accuser was out there. There have been allegations that this last accuser wasn't even really a victim of Eddie Long, but somebody who jumped in on the lawsuit and got a payday. Some people said this accuser didn't even go to the church and had, but I'll let you guys see.
Sentino Kemp. Hi, Dale Russell of Fox 5 I-Team. For nearly 2 months, we searched all over Atlanta for Sentino Kemp and finally caught up with him leaving the small recording studio. He was happy to talk about his music. You recording music?
Yeah.
So Sentino called them, would not talk to them. Y'all, we gotta use both sides of our brain here. Sentino wanted a record deal, and so Sentino allowed them to catch him outside the recording studio. Okay.
What are you doing?
I'm just recording some music. That's it. Some songs for iTunes and YouTube.
But he didn't want to talk about anything else. We wanted to ask you about Bishop Eddie Long.
Oh, no comment.
Come on. Can we just talk to you for a second?
Now, he called these people.
Some are profanity-laced, sexually charged stories of angry, single, tattooed, and always sporting different looks. He tweets openly of gay rights and dreams of taking the recording world by storm. Are you on a label?
No, it's just for fun and stuff like that. Not on a label.
One source says Sentino Kemp, raised in the Bahamas, met.
Now, y'all, Sentino left his records out, like his court records and his settlement records. And I believe they said that he got about $160,000 settlement. His roommates exposed it.
Bishop Eddie Long years ago during a visit to New Birth while he was a teenage student in a Florida college. The relationship meant enough for him to tattoo Eddie Long's name on his wrist, followed by the words, "Never a mistake, always a lesson." Sources say Kemp joined in the settlement talks after he heard about the other young men's lawsuits. And though he never sued, he became a part of the final settlement. One lawyer familiar with the case confirmed Kemp was involved and was different from the other young men, one piece of the puzzle that never fit. And he made the...
Why would they read Sentino like that? Not a piece of the puzzle that never fit.
The case more difficult.
In the Bahamas, they call me Centennial, and the passport says Sentino, so I've been confused all my life.
Bishop Eddie Long had no comment about Sentino Kemp. Just 1 second. And Kemp had nothing to say about the bishop. After walking away from our question, he later sprinted to an awaiting stretch limousine. The secret accused.
Why was Sentino in a stretch limousine if he had not called the news to say, I want to talk? Nobody is following Sentino to
accuser in the Bishop Long sex scandal drove off, still had no response to either our phone calls or our email. Attorney BJ Bernstein, who...
So yes, y'all, Sentino did write a book, and it was called First Lady, Sentino Kemp. I'm not going to be reading Sentino's book. But shout out to Sentino for getting their money and running, literally. I'm sorry. Sentino took me out. Sentino took me out. Sentino had just got that hair done. Sentino had that Aaliyah bang, and Sentino wanted to be seen. Why Sentino was in the limo, I don't know. But Sentino did say he was the first lady of the church. To be honest, after the roommates kind of explained that the tattoo that he had was relatively new, and that Sentino didn't actually know, and Sentino was really just doing this for the money. Let me see if I have another interview of. Here we go. This is what they had to say.
Emails or anything from Bishop Long. And as for Sentino's
and watches
Billy Alexander and Jason himself in,
I have better opportunities than other people here. I can live.
Took over and saved his life.
I was like, I need to get up out of here and I can live. I don't have to be like suicidal taking pills because I have better opportunities than other people here. So that's when Wild Child was like, you need to get up and let's go.
You think he checked himself in when he really didn't have any problems?
Yes.
But Sentino Kemp's closest friends in Atlanta don't understand it. Willie Alexander and Jason Cobb met Sentino after the Bishop Long settlement. After hanging out with him for months, they both question his story.
He sits up all night on the internet and watches Eddie's online sermons.
Both say they don't understand why Kemp had no pictures, notes, emails, or anything from Bishop Long. And as for Sentino's tattoo on his wrist that says Eddie Long,
he told me he had it some years ago, but that tattoo looked recent.
Kemp told me later that his friends are just mad at him because he stopped giving them money. After Sentino Kemp sat down for this interview, his publicist released promotional material for an autobiographical book called First Lady. The book promises tales of lust, violence, sex, and lies that surrounded Sentino Kemp's long-term relationship with a renowned African-American bishop. Willie Alexander has read a draft of the book.
He ever had a relationship with nobody. He don't know how to deal with people.
Wild Child don't care about nothing. He's going to go out there and be aggressive. Sentino is just a lost kid.
Kemp's friends say they saw the settlement documents that showed Kemp was paid $150,000. They say
Sentino came in rec shop, got a payday, and was telling all of the friends, having limousines pick him up, fresh Aaliyah bangs. He worked the system. I really do believe if Sentino was not telling the truth, then Sentino saw an opportunity. And because Sentino was technically not, Sentino was more of an effeminate man and kind of gender bends, used that as a way to get into the lawsuit because Eddie Long did not want to be associated. Sentino was a city girl back in the day.
Say legal fees and expenses were deducted. The I-Team confirmed the amount paid Sentino Kemp, $94,149.81. Kemp would.
That was actually paid for by the church. That did not come out of Eddie Long's pockets. The church paid for that.
Not discuss it with us.
I have died and came back to life. Literally.
Like literally, you guys. And Sentino was sitting there watching this interview, watching his friends really wear him out. Like
me, but I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal. You me, but I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal. You.
This is Sentino's room.
Kemp collected his settlement check in May and moved in with Willie Alexander in a Peachtree Street high-rise. But then after a few months, like a ghost, he vanished, leaving behind a box full of his music and a room full of mysterious memories.
He wants to be famous. He's starstruck. He wants to be famous.
I have no regrets. I am 22 years old and I don't regret anything I've been through in my life. It's all made me stronger.
Now, Bishop Long accusers Jamal Paris and
you are claiming to be a victim of, grooming and assault, and you're saying you have no regrets and people are just jealous of you. I can't purport to know how each victim handles stuff. So Sentino might have been a victim. Who knows? I also think that this whole concept, this mindset that Eddie Long only liked men who were masculine. You don't know what the next person likes. Eddie Long could have been bent over on a motorcycle holding a sweet potato pie. We don't know what he liked. We don't know what he did behind closed doors, except for the stuff that was actually in the complaints. And I can't pull Sentino's complaint because he did not have to file a lawsuit. He was just given a settlement. The church was spewing out money at the behest of Eddie Long to each victim that came forward. Sentino jumped in and did not even need to do a lawsuit. So we don't know what this man liked. Sentino, for all we know, could have been on top. We don't know. So, you know, Monique told a joke and she was like, what people didn't realize was they thought that the epitome of everything was a skinny bee. And she said, that ain't true. So for all y'all who think that a big bee can't take your man, you would be wrong, because I could swing from the chandelier like anybody else. You never really know what the next person is doing in their bedroom. Sentino might have been a victim. We don't know, but we do know that he got $100,000 from the church, at least. And we do know that he was getting limousines and his recording stuff was being paid for, and he had promotional posters. That stuff ain't free. What let's see. What was all this stuff? That ain't free. He just picked the wrong roommates.
Me, but I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal.
So back to TD Jakes. I want to say that we don't know anything technically about TD Jakes. At this point, all of these things are allegations. We do know that he's friends with Diddy, but we don't know until Prophet Manasseh or these other 4 individuals comes forward and actually does their own lawsuit so we can read the complaints. We know that he's friends with Puffy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he did it. I can only bring you guys what's out there. How you process it, where you stand with it is up to you. Now, you know, Big Monique. If Monique said that she was swinging from a chandelier, then she was swinging from a chandelier. Monique had many husbands, so she was doing something. She was keeping them some kind of way. Anyway, I will bring that Diddy lawsuit to you guys because it was really freaky. And to me, it kind of proves that this man is connected in a way that is kind of scary. So I'm going to go. You guys have a good night. Like the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We have now reached, I think, like 115,000 of us. So we are 115,000 straight shooters strong. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys. So have a good night. I will see you guys later. I'm going to try to get that book tonight from not from Sentino, but from the other dude. Bye, y'all.